That's wonderful. And let me start with our speaker from SDSN Hong Kong, Mr. Leong Cheung. He's the Executive Director, Charities and Community of the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the co-chair of SDSN Hong Kong. And he will be presenting a solution from this network, the Jockey Club AgeFriendly City project. Now, we have this, I think the pandemic has very clearly visibilized in many countries the vulnerabilities and the inequalities in which our elderly live these days. So I am very keen to hear about your phenomenal solution. Mr. Leong, over to you.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Maria. Can you all hear me? Okay, no answer, I assume it's a yes. Thank you. So if I may just start with some background and context. Of course, the Jockey Club H20 City project does not just it's not just limited to COVID and COVID response. Doing this since 2015 alongside with Chinese University of Hong Kong, who is a co-host of the SDSN Hong Kong chapter. So President Rocky Duan, I think he's also in the audience. He co-chairs this Hong Kong SDSN chapter with myself. Now, the project itself is quite complicated, actually. So we have been able to involve 4 universities and then the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charities Trust. We are the largest foundation in Hong Kong, and for that matter, one of the top 10 globally in terms of annual donation size. So it's a big commitment, $25 million US, and started in 2015 and aim to finish. In fact, we extended it because of COVID, so we intend to end sometime in the mid-2020. So next slide, please. And for any solution to begin with, we have to begin with the challenge. So what is the challenge? I think globally, every city, every country, we all face a similar challenge that we see coming to us in the next 30 years, which is the aging growth of aging population. I think generally a typical country, city currently probably would stand at about 10% of population 65 or above. But Hong Kong, we are already at 1/6. So in every 6 people, 1 person will be 65 or above. And in roughly 30 years or so, this number will grow to 2.5 million in Hong Kong out of a population of roughly 7.2 million. And that will be 1/3 of our population age 65. And interestingly, Hong Kong have a very unique challenge globally. We do have the world's longest life expectancy, but that means we basically have a large population that we have to take care of. So that's the challenge. If you were to go to the next slide, when we think about solutions, very much like Jack just mentioned, we did our surveys. We look globally for solutions, whether certain things can be applied in Hong Kong. So we look at WHO, and we saw that WHO has a very interesting framework called the Age-Friendly City. There are 8 dimensions, very much measurable, very much we can set up baseline, we can set up specific solutions to address, and then we can measure the progress. So we took that framework, but then how do we make it work in Hong Kong? We see a similar thing in a lot of other cities or countries whereby sort of top politicians just take the agenda and say, let's go with it. Now in Hong Kong, we didn't feel that should be the approach. So if you were to go to the next slide, we adopt a fairly unique approach to build the H20 City in Hong Kong. So first of all, it was very bottom up. There are 18 districts in Hong Kong. We practically approach every single district and say, will you be interested in building your district into a age-friendly district? And then we also work across sectors. So the universities, the NGOs, the commercial sector, the media sector, and also the politicians. We reach across to all sectors and try to say, how can we work on this together as a common experience? And then we also focus quite a lot on building up the evidence so that, again, like Jack said, we can share the experience and we'll be able to scale up the experience as well. So next slide, please. So in that process, we figure, we are solving 4 SDG goals. So that will be 3, 11, 16, and 17. And I particularly like to emphasize the 17, meaning how do we engage every party together to solve a problem that faces us in common? We all understand, collaboration is easier said than done. Commercial world obviously think commercially. Politicians think what's the next vote come from? And so how do we work, between these sectors and then also build alliance among them? I think it has been a daunting challenge, but I think we're very lucky and we're very happy to report that we have been able to achieve quite a bit in the last few years. So that will take us into the next slide. Right. So just to share with you a few sort of achievements, if you will, out of this project. First of all, we help all 18 districts to come on board. So first of all, their district council, their local government officials, they would have to take the initiative and say, yes, we want to do it together in this project, which we were able to successfully convince everyone to do. And then everyone went through this WHO process. So not something governed just locally in Hong Kong, but this is a process governed by the WHO officials. So all 18 districts went through this process and all got certifications from the WHO, very, very celebratory mode in all the districts. And then we had 140 district programs reaching out to hundreds of thousands of people. We also train thousands of volunteers, and we also have close to 70 NGOs involved in delivering these programs and etc. I think one very unique thing is that we've been able to work this program, the AFC, into the local political agenda. So now in every one of the 18 district councils in Hong Kong, they all have that on their agenda. So what we envision is, the philanthropic dollar may not come all the time. We might not be supporting this forever, but since this is already embedded into the local politicians' agenda, then it will be around for a very sustainable future. Next slide, please. I think the next 2 slides is really about lessons learned and knowledge transfer and community legacy. I think, throughout the process, not only we created this momentum and movement and campaign, but we also try to summarize them into indexes. So we created a couple of index in Hong Kong, which through media, we publicize them every year. And now, it created this momentum that people then look at this and expect that to come out every year. So each district, they will be able to compare among themselves, but more importantly, they will be able to compare themselves against what they achieved in the previous years. So I mean, the purpose of this and the lessons learned is really to encourage learning and to encourage continuous improvement. Obviously, not to pick fault of any particular party. Right. So if you were to go to the next slide, then we'll just quickly high-level summarize. If people are interested, we can talk about that in breakout sessions. But each district is very unique, even in Hong Kong, such a metropolitan city. But you have some districts that are more business-oriented in the central business district. But you also have some districts which are a little bit more rural. And sometimes their uniqueness in terms of demand and needs are very different. And we also need to pay attention to the elderly as a segment. Sometimes we just say, oh, older people, as if they are a homogeneous group. They are not. They also come in with different financial backgrounds, with different level of financial independence, with also education and etc. And they also live in different kinds of conditions. So we need to pay attention to also then very uniquely, particularly from the district, who they are and how they behave. And to what extent can we encourage them to live, a healthier lifestyle? And then last but not least, definitely, I mentioned it a couple of times already, make sure everyone is engaged. This is not just a foundation's work or just the government's work. This is everybody's work. It relates to, eventually 1/3 of our population. So what's next? My last slide. I think it's really about, again, sharing this experience, sharing this knowledge. I'm sure every one of us or every one of you, whether you're from a country, a city, you will have a very unique situation on your own. But I think it's always good to also then look at other people's experience and some of the path and some of the mistakes, particularly they have made. So I think in this spirit, we try to share this project with you. So last but not least, let me again thank my partner, President Duan, and also the CUHK team in co-hosting the network and joining force in promoting this particular initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leon. This is a fascinating solution, and I'm very keen to hear more, perhaps during the panel, on indeed the establishment of those partnerships across so different organizations. Well,
sure.
That alliances are easier said than done. So yes, looking forward to your tips and your experience on that. Let me now pass the floor to our next speaker, coming from SDSN.